Hi, good morning. It's Jim from mavstar. You know that Davos saying, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, even though it was only meant as a prediction. It wasn't a statement of fact that it is going to happen, but nevertheless, if you look at the way things are going in our world, you will see that at some point it will come true. I don't know whether you'll be happy at that point, but you certainly won't earn nothing or own nothing. These robots are probably 5 years away from, making every shareholder of every company very happy and wealthy at the same time. As soon as robots replace all the workforces in the world, shareholders then will reap the benefits of paying, as you can right now, for this generation Optimus 3 Tesla robot under £20,000 each, already capable of doing all those menial tasks around your home, like the washing, the ironing, the folding up of the washing, the returning of it back to your wardrobe. It can cook, it can clean, it can do your garden. It will run for 23 hours without charge, and it will take an hour to charge it up, so it'll run another 23 hours after that. So you can see why shareholders will love this, because this thing doesn't get ill. It doesn't need holidays, doesn't need holiday pay. It can work for 20 hours at a stretch or even more. I believe that, in just standby mode, this thing will run for 48 hours. Tesla have built a robot more capable than Boston Dynamics in terms of ability, moving ability, navigational ability, and longevity in terms of charge and power output. So it can do all the tasks around your house right now, and therefore we're already seeing these Optimus Generation 3 robots already in factories working, doing tasks like carrying loads. I mean, it can carry up to 100 kilos as well, where we're rated here in the UK not to lift more than 25 kilos because of the possibility of an injury. Well, this thing can carry over 100 kilos. So the reason why I say it will make shareholders happy is because it simply replaces a human being job, and one robot might do 2 jobs of a human being. So you can imagine the amount of money a company like McDonald's would save if it replaced all its human beings with robots, and they'd do even a better job than what a human being does, because the ability to make mistakes with human beings is higher than a robot. So the robot will do something more accurately and successful than a human being, especially when you're talking about repetitive tasks, like you've got to repeat the same task over and over again. Robots will be more efficient, more accurate, and more reliable, and they'll work longer hours. Why am I talking about this with you guys? Because there's something missing from all this. This equation, there is something vastly missing from this, is that your governments are not taking on board what a human being will do when it's replaced by all these robots, in order to participate in a monetary system. Now, we know that there are benefits in first world countries like ours in the UK. You can obtain benefits if you have not got a job. The government will carry you with benefits, but the benefits are less than minimum wage, which means you are plunged into poverty, which means you cannot afford to heat your home and eat at the same time. That's what we're already seeing now, and we haven't got thousands and thousands of robots in the workforce yet. But trust me, when shareholders put pressure on company owners to return more profit, then they are going to look at robotics replacing human beings and human labour. And sure as what we've seen in the local shopping centres and supermarkets, when you cash out there is now more self-service tills than there are cashiers. You know, I could go into my local shop down the road and there'll be less than 2 people on the till, but there'll be 10 or 15 self-service tills and 1 person just observing what's going on there. You know, if there's a problem, like, you know, there's an alcohol sale, then that'll have to be approved by a human being. So they step in just briefly, and, you know, if there's an age problem, you know, that's queried at that point, or if not, you know, then they simply, you know, move the card across the screen, and that person then is able to pack and pay for the shopping. But as sure as we have seen the reduction of cashiers, we will see the reduction of a lot of other things. And people are naively going into tomorrow with all this technology coming on board and being oblivious to it. You know, they think it's never going to happen in their lifetimes. What I will tell you now is that what I've seen, the capabilities of this Generation 3 Optimus Tesla robot, you know, it is already on sale for less than £20,000. And you've got to just think about this. £20,000 for a company, initial outlay, will see a return, you know, will see pay for itself within 2 years. Because, you know, you don't pay somebody in this country £10,000 a year because that's below minimum wage and therefore it's illegal. But that won't be a problem with robots. You can work them for the 23 hours a day. So long as they get that 1 hour charge, they're ready to go again in the next 23 hours, and again and again and again. Human beings could never keep up with the performance of a robot or the stamina of those actuation systems within the robot that make it, you know, functional. So, you know, what will we do in the future to participate in a muncher system? And the reason we go back to the beginning of this video, I said, you know, what Davos was saying about, you know, you'll learn nothing. Well, that's clear as daylight. You know, how many generations can you pass on your property to them? And, you know, with the government tax, on inheritance tax, you know, they will take massive chunks until, you know, there is nothing left within that property to take. And therefore the government will be the ultimate winners of, you know, a few generations of wealth that has been passed down to them. If we look what's happening in today's real time with the younger generation, they're living with the parents till they're in their 35s, 40s, and still not able to afford to buy their own property. The rent is taking probably half of their salary that they earn at the moment, and this will increase. You know, we're allowing more immigrants, and they're not immigrants in the sense that they are in danger in their own country. These are chances that are coming solely for the potential of, you know, having a great life in a country that they have never been in before, and exploiting the fact that they could take a lesser paid job in order to, you know, get, you know, function as a family. And this is what we're seeing, you know, and I think the government are allowing it in a sense because they know that this is cheap labour. And what that is doing is allowing companies to make that choice. You know, we can employ this immigrant that has just come in the country within the last year, has been granted visas to stay or permission, you know, to be a resident of the country. And, you know, what do? Do we employ a national of the country, or do we employ the immigrant who's prepared to take less of money? And we know within business, you know, it's a choice. It really is. If that person's very educated, then it's a choice of quality. But, you know, most companies these days want to deliver on the least expenditure possible. So, you know, they will see it viable to employ that immigrant that has only been in the country probably a year or so, because they know he will work very hard and he'll work for less than what a national will. And that's why your governments are allowing this to happen. They say, and we see the politicians talking about this very readily on mainstream media, when they're interviewed, that, we need these immigrants to come in because the menial jobs that are not being taken by the nationals that are already here, because of the salary is low. So, we are always giving into, these companies, and, we'll be faced with the choice at the end of the day whether we want to participate in the monetary system, even though that the amount of money is probably not going to cover enough for your living standards or a reasonable quality of life. But without it, you will have a miserable life. So, again, going back to Davos saying, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. You'll have nothing because you simply won't be able to afford anything. And the little what you are allowed to have, you'll be probably pleased to have that because it's better than nothing. And that's the corner that we're all being pushed into. But I think we're probably looking at these robots and their ability, that what they're at the moment now, which is pretty high standards. They can do quite a lot now. We're probably 5 years away from like we was 5 years, 10 years ago when we first started seeing these self-service tills come into our, shopping marts and centres and whatever. We're probably 5 years away from seeing these frequently in the workplace, and probably 10 years away from them completely taking over. And, therefore we're facing a huge crisis that genuinely is being ignored by our politicians, because it's obvious to me, and I hope it's obvious to you, that this is going to happen. But the point is, the biggest point I want to make is, how do we all participate in the monetary system when this is, in effect? We're going to start seeing more and more people that cannot obtain jobs and therefore cannot participate in the monetary system, and they're going to be forced onto a benefit system that pays less than minimum wage. Now, it's wrong. This should have been already addressed, and there should be plans in place for this when it happens, because it's absolutely going to happen. But you will not hear a single politician, talk about technology replacing the workforce of any country. And, we've seen it happen. We've seen the self-service tills. If you look at the way car manufacturers build the cars these days, there's no one welding anymore. It's all the welds done by, robotics. It's the robotics that built the car shell. And, with the introduction of the Optimus Generation 3 robot in the workspace, those other tasks like, trimming the car out, assembling the gearboxes and the engines will all be done by robots. And that means, an industry that used to support probably 10,000 workers will, in the future, probably support less than 1,000. And that means, they will drive it to that because, the shareholders of these companies demand an increase on their investment every year, and they will push it to that. It's obvious that is what they will do, and shareholders don't care so long as they, if they invest, they expect a return. So long as they get a return on their investment year in, year out, they do not care about people losing their jobs, being made redundant. So long as they get a return on their investment, they're happy. And this is very destructive. This method and this practice is absolutely destructive to countries like ours. What we've just done? We closed the last coal pit, the coal mining facility in the UK, and within the last couple of months we closed, I think it was Port Talbot, the last steelworks in this country. So that means now we have to import our steel if we want to manufacture anything in this country. We can't produce it ourselves. And the reason why that facility closed was because it was getting penalised every year for not being environmentally friendly. Because, in order to heat up these massive steel pots, let's just say, call them steel pots, the foundries, was requiring massive amounts of energy, and they was being penalised, they was being fined for the amount that they was using, and eventually it led to, deficits every week of millions of pounds, and the inevitability was that that last steelworks factory was going to close. Why is that any relevance? Well, I'd just like to know that if ever we go to war with a country in the future, how we are going to produce our own tanks, armoured vehicles, guns, how we're going to produce aircraft, ships, anything of that sort, because we've just lost our independence to build out of steel. That means we're subject now to imports only. Port Talbot did say, from what I gathered, that they would reopen the plant in a few years' time. It won't employ as many people as what it did because it will be a new high-tech plant, and therefore it will be more efficient, using more cleaner processes or more greener processes. But right now, Port Talbot, I can just imagine the devastation that this steelworks factory has had on the community, because what will these people do now that live in that community that once had a job at that foundry, that steelworks factory? What will they do now, and what will happen to their town as a result of that? I can see it, degrading, going down, because there isn't any other industry that is replacing them jobs in that vicinity. The government haven't stepped in with a project to, retrain or repurpose that workforce in any meaningful way. And, I don't think those jobs will ever come back to that town. And this is just, what we see on a grand scale. So, militarily, just in military terms, the UK is massively vulnerable now. Massively vulnerable for the fact we only have 70,000 personnel in the British Army. And just think about that. On day one of Russia going into Ukraine, it had over 100,000 troops, and has sustained, that amount of troops, and now just put into practice a call up for an extra 1 million personnel. We could never do that. Our world is changing. We live in a very rare time, where the magnetic poles are reversing on our planet, for sure. This is affecting the climate 100%. It's affecting lots of other things down the chain, like, cancer rates are going up as a result of more radiation inbound through the weakened magnetosphere. We're seeing arable land that we grow crops in to feed ourselves going offline because they're flooding or they're in drought as a result of the broken jet streams that we have on our planet. A lot of these things are not being talked about by politicians because they don't have the answers to give that is, acceptable by the British public, so they just keep them quiet. They don't talk about it. But what are we going to do with the monetary system in 5 and 10 years' time, when it no longer serves anybody? It's already, I've said this for years, the monetary system has surpassed itself. The capital system has failed. If you're in a group of criminals, you can manipulate any country in this world, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. Crooks and criminals don't care about the local environment. They don't care about the local towns, villages and cities and countries as a whole. They will sell and destroy that country's currency in order to make a profit for themselves. That's the world in which we are living in right now. And it's no joke, because it's going to get worse. Who would, in the right mind, want to bring children into this world right now? Just look at the children that we've got over the last 2 decades in this world. Qualified, but still unable to get a well-paid job. I was talking to this with my brother yesterday, and we were saying those jobs 20 years ago that used to pay really good money, like in the banking sector, like you being a doctor or a surgeon, no longer pay that kind of money. I was listening to a banker yesterday who said he was paid $19,800 a year. I'm just starting to do my class 1 in the next couple of weeks here in the UK, HGV driving, Arctic lorries, and I've been promised a job with a bit of overtime, all being said. I don't mind doing a bit of extra overtime for a bit of extra cash, but I will earn in the range of £60,000 just for driving a class 1. That is 3 times more than what this banker is being paid. My friend who works at this place, who's already lined a job up for me with the people that take on new staff, he took home cleared over £900, which isn't a bad wage in this country. It's nearly £1,000 a week just for driving a class 1. So think about that, how the dynamics have changed in the workforce. These people, the managers and this, that and the other, who used to be paid really well, are no longer paid really well. They're almost on the same salary as anyone else that's working there. Only the fact is, they're being used to run the place for this almost the same or virtually the same amount of money. We've got lots of problems, and I know that some of these problems is already associated in your little environment wherever you are, and I know that we've got people listening from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all over Europe, all over the United States, Brazil, you name it. We have people all over the world, even Argentina, all over the world listening occasionally, not all the time, but we will have quite a few people from all over the world. But you will understand what I'm saying right now with a lot of the things I've talked in this video about. The scary thing is that nothing is being done or modified to the allowance of these robots coming into the workforce, and nothing's been done or set aside or planned for what they will do with the excess human workforce that is not needed, and how will they cope. And that's why I said, one of the options might be, for some people, not everyone, is to relocate. Now, I already know a lot of people that live close to the Mexico border. They live in Mexico, but they commute to the United States to do their work, but they live in Mexico because their dollars goes a lot further in terms of property and cost of living, and therefore they're making it work. So I'm just saying that there are a lot of third world countries out there which are getting their act together. They're probably about 15-20 years behind the first world countries where we are right now, but they're an up and coming nation. And you got an opportunity to go back 20 years with the way things were 20 years ago in this country or any other country, first world country that you're in right now, Europe or America or Canada or Australia, and exploit that fact. You've got a second bite at the cake if you want to do that, but it requires that very brave and bold move of selling up here wherever you are and moving to that third world country. There's a lot of Asian countries where food is really cheap. I mean, I'll just give you, for instance, I think I mentioned it yesterday, that if you go out for a meal here in the UK, for one person it's around about £50. That's including a drink, and you get pretty dismal quality food. But for about $10 or £10 in an Asian country in the South or the Pacific or the Philippines or Thailand or Japan or any of those countries, there's lots of them, you get more bang for your dollar or more bang for your buck. So what it might be an option to consider, relocating out there. If you've got money that you can retire out there, you might have a better standard of living. People worry about the medical facilities in these third world countries and the fact that you have to pay for it. Well, yes, you do, but I guarantee you will be surprised at the level of expertise and quality of that medical service. Yes, you do pay for it, but you won't be waiting like you are here in the UK, a week to see a doctor. You could see a doctor within a couple of hours of going to that surgery, or within an hour of going to that surgery. And, you will get seen, the prescriptions will be written, and you'll be, in the pharmacy getting what you need. Or if it requires surgery, it's there, ready to go. And that's third world countries for you, compared to first world countries that we've got here. Yeah, we've got this thing here in the UK called the NHS, which is just the skeleton of what the NHS used to be. It is absolutely appalling and run down and purposely done. It's just that eventually they will privatise it, 100%. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But what they do is they run it into the ground first, so that people realise that it's a terrible service. And they say, well, then at that point, well, the way forward then is to privatise it, and therefore the service will improve to standards all around the rest of the first world countries. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work this out. But my concern, firstly, is for the way the climate is changing on our planet, and the ignorance of these politicians and the lies that they're telling, with regards to CO2 being the cause of it, which is the biggest lie I've ever come across, and angers me more than anything. And then the ignorance of just ignoring the fact that our Earth is going through a magnetic reversal, and the consequences relating to that, and the causes of climatic change as a result of that. And then, not only are they negligent in that, they're also negligent in even seeing where this technology with robotics is going to end up going, and how that is going to affect people. Now, I am stupid for thinking that, these politicians could, if they wanted to, do something about it. But there is no incentive, there is no motivation, there is no inclination for them to do it, and therefore they won't. And that's why, even I am thinking perhaps in 3 or 4 years, when I've achieved what I want to do, financially, then, I might even myself consider, fleeing the sinking ship, because the UK is a sinking ship. It's when you've got bad management, and you've repeatedly got bad management, it doesn't matter who gets in power. I mean, Keir Starmer's more conservative than conservative Richie Sunak. That's clear. And he has hit the road running by already going back on his manifesto, his promises that he said if he was elected that he would deliver these things. Well, he's already gone back massively on those. We see the corruption at its all-time high. Him going to Taylor Swift concerts, giving her royal police escorts around London, and lo and behold, him, his son, and other members of the Parliament have got free tickets to Taylor Swift. Even Keir Starmer gets the opportunity to have a one-to-one with her in the backstage with his wife, telling me there's no conflict of interest there. And that's just that. There's also that, his wife getting hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of free clothes, and him then saying, okay, well, I'll return £7,000 of this because, this, goes against the new regulations for accepting freebies if you're a politician, which is just an act of guilt. No two ways about it. He knows that what he's done is a conflict of interest. He should resign straight away, but it will never happen, because he is a tick who has tapped into the bloodstream, and he hasn't finished yet his meal, and he won't be pulling off that bloodstream until he is big and fat and his bank account is bulging. Just think about it. What business does a multimillionaire have in the interest of running any country if it's not to wax himself even more richer? They think we're stupid, that we don't see what's going on. Of course we do. We know that they're going to be helping themselves. giving themselves contracts, giving their friends contracts, and then they know they're not going to be in power for very long, because it won't be long before another party takes over, and they'll blame, the previous party to it, and they'll say, well, or we weren't in long enough to do, achieve all our goals. But I've just seen 30 years of politics achieve nothing. All I've seen is things get worse, and there is no foresight with any of these people that get into power, because they just, lack the ability to see how things are going, and then lack the inclination to make the changes so that they don't affect people on a grand scale. And that's exactly what we're going to see with the introduction of these robots coming into the workforce. It will just mean that more people will be pushed into poverty, more people won't have jobs, and it will just get worse from here on out. And then adding to the fact that we've got pharmaceutical companies that would rather create infections and diseases and bacterias that harm people, so that they can then come up with the resolution of a vaccine to cure them. That's the way the pharmaceutical industry works. We've seen them silence people that have talked about it. The industrial military complex, so long as there is a war going on somewhere around the world, then Lockheed Martin, Boeing, the European Space Agency, NASA, BEA Systems, they'll all be happy, because they'll be supplying the need for those, that demand for those weapons at that point in time. And look at the cost of these weapons now. That THAAD system that the United States only owns 8 of, and it takes a year to produce another one. They've just given one to Israel. It costs £1 billion a shot. Amazing, isn't it? Keeping the industrial military complex, full with orders. At what cost? Who pays the price? Civilians. 40,000 in Gaza. We've seen a repeat of Gaza now in Lebanon. Who is going to stand up and do the right thing at this point? I could say a lot more about that, but I know that would seriously turn the red light on, and I would very soon pop up on the radar for talking out loud about certain things. This is what I'm talking about. Self-censorship. This is what we have to do these days, because we're worried if we talk about things, and we shouldn't have to worry about talking about certain subjects, because according to human rights, we're supposed to have the right to discuss any topic, associate with anyone we want, and freely share ideas. But we can't do that. It's clear that we live in a dystopia in this country, in the UK. A falsehood of a reality that is not clearly explained to us, because if it was, they know they'd be infringing on human rights. Nevertheless, they do it behind, closed doors, in dark rooms. And we know it goes on. We're just scumbags that shouldn't even be part of the human race. We're talking the 1% of these degenerate people that think more about money, that lock their conscience in a closet and behave the way they do. They're not the same as me and you guys. These are not real human beings. They lack the ability to have any empathy whatsoever. They can, look what's happened in Gaza. What we've seen is completely the opposite as what we should be seeing. Human life, regardless of where it is, should be respected as human life. But we have seen, human life be entirely treated completely different. What has took place in Gaza is genocide, clearly, 100%, and is spreading now into Lebanon. And what happened in Gaza with all them buildings being blown to smithereens? Well, just turn your attention to Beirut in Lebanon right now. It's the exact same thing happening all over again. You know, Israel have upset 5 of their neighbours, gone to war with all 5 at the same time. Where is diplomacy? Where is negotiation? Because these 2 things have got to come to the table at some point to turn these wars off. But at what point will they come to the table? When they've eliminated all the human beings that pose a threat to their plans? We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Over the coming months, we're going to see. But what a disgraceful place, you know, a small amount of human beings have turned our world into. I think you'll agree, you know, that we had an opportunity to drive a heaven on this earth, but what looks like, you know, a very small amount of people have done as deliberately driven hell on this earth. And, you know, me and you listening to this now are very lucky that we was not born in Gaza, because we could have quite easily have been, but we're lucky not to be. We are lucky to switch on our TVs or go onto YouTube or other social media websites and see the destruction for ourselves. It's a damn good job that we're not there suffering as these human beings are. Because I tell you now, it weren't these kids that are dead and been burnt alive that are causing the terrorism around the world. It certainly weren't their mums and their grands and their granddads that caused the terrorism around the world. Most of these people are just innocent civilians. And when you drop a £2,000 bomb, obviously on a target that you intend to take out, you shouldn't be surprised that a £2,000 bomb does a lot more than take out one person. I have seen complete buildings brought down by one of those bombs, and residents trapped within the rubble on the floor, either killed or seriously injured. There's a link down there if you want to help support what we do at our observatory. You know, we would bring to you the latest magnetic pole positions. We cover, you know, the anomalies that are taking place around our world with regards to volcanoes, earthquakes, you know, sunspots, solar activity, space weather and all that stuff. So if you want to help support, you know, an observatory that is not just looking after you with, you know, the anomalies that are taking place around our world, but also some of the things that I feel that you might need to know, then the link is down there. And the only other thing for me to say is, you know, you make the best of your life for you and your loved ones as you possibly can. And, you know, you don't need a crystal ball to see how the future's going, but, you know, you do need to take action with regards to some of these things that we've discussed just in this video alone. And, you know, you're only going to do that by sitting down with your family members and discussing these issues. Because you can rest assured these robots are going to be entering the workforce at some point, and maybe you need to ask the question, is your job secure? Or is it a possibility that one of these could take your job? If so, you need to either retrain. If you're going to stay where you are, you need to probably think about, you know, moving, you know, to another country so that your books go a little bit further than what they're doing now, and you have a better quality of life, because life is about living. It's not about working. You know, we are not slaves. We are conscious. Most of us are conscious, caring human beings, and we care for others. It's just a small minority that are ruining the world for us all. So, having said that, link down there in the description, and, you know, do the best you can. As always, bye for now.
Mavstar's got his bubble with molecules and atoms in a wild disco show, spinning centrifuges while he's cracking DNA. Alchemy and chemistry in a bold ballet, astrophysical equations guiding him each day. Mavstar's got the universe in a microscopic tray. Hey mavstar, ooh mavstar, you're making science not so scary. Hey mavstar, ooh mavstar, in your lab coat life's a fairy tale. He's splitting time and space with quantum superstrings, gravitational waves and the magic that they bring, calculating fractals like a wizard with a ring. Mavstar's world of science makes the cosmos sing. Hey mavstar, ooh mavstar, you're making science not so scary. Hey mavstar, ooh mavstar, in your lab coat life's a fairy tale. From the petri dish to the farthest galaxies, Mavstar's vision sees through every mystery. In the lab at night where the magic never sleeps, he's writing all the secrets that the universe keeps. To the farthest galaxies, Mavstar's vision sees through every mystery. In the lab at night where the magic never sleeps, he's writing all the secrets that the universe keeps. Hey Mavstar, ooh Mavstar, you're making science not so scary. To the farthest galaxies, Mavstar's vision sees through every mystery. In the lab at night where the magic never sleeps, he's writing all the secrets that the universe keeps.